Hi, I'm Marco Rubio. First of all, I'm proud to be your United States Senator. It's my honor to serve you here in Washington, D.C. Things have been quite busy, to say the least, as you've seen on television. So we're going to restart our series of Constituent Mailbox. We used to do this my first 6 years here. We stopped for a while because when you run for office, you can't use these facilities to do this kind of work. But now we're back and we're excited to do it. And what we've done traditionally is we've taken emails or phone calls. What are the leading issues that people are calling us or texting us or, calling us or emailing us or coming into the office or writing us on? And we try to answer those in a longer form way that potentially you're not getting that answer from the press or somewhere else where I may have appeared. So obviously the number one issue that everyone has been calling about is this issue with Russian interference in our elections, everything that surrounds the president, et cetera. So let me just back up and talk about this. First of all, I remind everybody, back in October of last year, I was a candidate for the United States Senate, and I refused to talk about WikiLeaks. I might have been the only Republican in the country who said that. I wouldn't use it against Secretary Clinton. I wouldn't use it against my opponent. And I said then I wouldn't, because it was the work of a foreign intelligence agency who was trying to interfere in our elections. And that was my position back then, and I think I stood alone in my party in taking that position. Now, fast forward to January and February of this year, when all these matters begin to arise, I am a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee. And the Senate Intelligence Committee has been working on this issue in a bipartisan way. And I encourage you to look at some of the things my Democratic colleagues on the committee are saying about our work. And so I spend literally hours a week focused just on this issue in the hopes that we can create a product that is bipartisan, but also thorough and fair, and puts out the facts to the American people on the fundamental questions of, did the Russians interfere in the U.S. elections? Was there collusion between the Russians and any presidential campaign? And related to all this, what about the intelligence community? Has it behaved appropriately, either in identifying this or in the way they handled the information once they got it? All of these things are within our purview. Now here's the problem. If I'm out there every single day giving an opinion, I'm already biased. You saw what happened in the United States House of Representatives, where the chairman of the House committee was out there taking firm positions before the investigation had concluded and had to end up recusing himself. So in order for this product to be a good product, it is important for those of us on the committee not to be out there every day giving our opinion about what we think has happened until we finish our work. Otherwise, we're going to have a product of that committee that people are going to think we went in with preconceived notions, that we had already made up our minds. I assure you of this. There is no one in the United States Senate that has worked harder or taken more seriously the threat that Russia has posed to our elections and our political system in this country. And number two, I am going to go wherever the truth and the facts lead us, irrespective of party. That's what I've always said, but we need to finish our work. Related to this, we used to get a lot of phone calls and say, well, appoint a special counsel. Well, we can't. Congress cannot appoint a special counsel. Only the Justice Department could. My only concern with that is, now that there is a special counsel appointed, and Robert Mueller, who's a person who's very well respected and I believe will do a very good job, but suddenly the people he's now talking to are going to start to not appear or share documents with the Intelligence Committee, and it's going to potentially impede our probe. Just today we got news that General Flynn has refused to turn over documents and has pled the fifth. So you can start to see how the existence of an open and active inquiry on behalf of a special counsel could potentially impede the work, the important work of this congressional committee. So my advice was, let us finish our work, let us put out the facts, and then based on the facts, we can determine whether or not we need a special counsel. But that decision was made by the Assistant Attorney General, which on the case of Russia is the Acting Attorney General. And now that that decision has been made, we should all be supportive of it, and everyone should cooperate with that effort. The second, obviously, leading issue over the last few weeks has been the reforms to health care. So let me back up and say that the House product, I know they worked hard on it, that is not the Senate bill. The Senate is going to do its own bill. The second thing is, what are we talking about here? We're not talking about the commercial plans, because by and large, most Americans, including many of you, get your health insurance from the place where you work. This does not really impact you in terms, it may in terms of the premiums going down, hopefully, but none of these things that we're talking about impact people that are getting insurance from their job. It also doesn't impact anyone that's getting insurance from Medicare. Medicare is not being touched in all of this. So what we're primarily focused on are two things: Medicaid and the individual marketplace. Now that is a small percentage of the overall population, but it's a significant number of people, millions of people. So what are my goals? Number one is I want Florida to be treated fairly when it comes to Medicaid. I want to make sure that we are not penalized because we didn't expand. And I want to make sure that whatever funding formula there is for Medicaid treats Florida fairly, but allows it to continue to operate in an innovative way so that we don't just get more coverage for people, but that we get people coverage that actually is better for their health, gets better outcomes. One of the studies showed, multiple studies have shown that people on Medicaid that was not managed, that they weren't getting primary care and the like, their health outcomes were no better than people that were uninsured. So that's why I'm a believer that Medicaid needs to be managed to ensure that diabetics are checking their blood sugar levels. People are going in to have their blood, if you have high blood pressure, that's being monitored. If you have a heart condition, that you're taking your meds, etc. All of these things are important. That's on the Medicaid piece. On the individual market, that's always been the challenge. Florida has never had a healthy individual marketplace. And the big problem with the individual marketplace is that in order for insurance to work, you've got to have people in that insurance pool that are younger and healthier in order to offset the costs of the people who are older and or sicker. And the problem with the individual market, even with the mandate, was that we did not have enough people who were younger and healthier buying it. And as a result, the programs didn't work. The premiums kept going up. There are now states across this country where companies are pulling out completely. That's a big challenge. So my plan has always been and continues to be that we have a big, robust tax credit available so that people can purchase this insurance, but also that we give and create the flexibility for the private market to design plans that meet your needs. Now, everybody gets into these debates about the required coverage that any insurance plan needs to have. In Florida, we have over 40 mandates in our state law already that go well beyond the 10 that are in Obamacare. So it's not as big an impact on Florida as it might be on another state. But again, allowing there to be flexibility is important in terms of the pricing. And if the tax credit is right and you calibrate that tax credit so that the older and sicker you are, the higher that tax credit is, it will make the availability of the individual market better for people who need it. Now, the challenge is this is not an easy thing to do, and that's why Obamacare failed. Because even though it had a mandate and even though it had all these sorts of payments and subsidies, a lot of people who were buying Obamacare didn't really have coverage. Because yeah, they had Obamacare and yes, they had a subsidy, but their co-payment was $5,000 or $10,000, meaning that unless you spent those $5,000 or $10,000 up front, you weren't really insured. And for a lot of people, that was not a good deal. So they would drop out. And as they dropped out, the premiums kept going up, leading to the spiral that we now find ourselves in. So irrespective of this presidential race, we were going to have to deal with the individual marketplace. This is not about taking anything away from anybody. It's about designing a sustainable individual marketplace at the state level where people who don't have coverage from their jobs or from Medicare or from Medicaid can buy health insurance that is of high quality with a good provider network and at an affordable cost. And if they can't pay it, that they have assistance through their tax returns to be able to do so. And this is just in its infancy. We're working on those details now. No plan is going to be perfect, but our goal is to make it better than what it is today, not worse. And that's my goal. And finally, we get a lot of questions this week about offshore drilling in the Gulf of Mexico. And, I think the oil spill in 2010 reminded us of the impact that could have. Here's the truth. Whether we like it or not, there's going to be offshore drilling. Maybe not right off the coast of Florida, but if there is a spill off the coast of Louisiana or off the coast of Cuba, for that matter, it's going to impact Florida. That's just a fact, and nothing we do here is going to be able to stop that now. Now, I have filed a bill that extends the moratorium. On offshore drilling. And that's a unanimous position, basically, of the entire Florida delegation. The difference between my bill and other bills is that my bill would allow Florida to participate in revenue sharing, meaning the money that is made from that drilling, even though it's not in Florida waters, Florida would be able to get some of that money. And the reason why is, even though we're not drilling, if there's a spill, it's not like the oil spill is going to stop at our territorial borders. It's going to continue to move into our waters if it hits the Gulf Stream or anything else. And so we are taking on the same risk as these other states, but we're not getting any money in return. And so this would be revenue, if it ever became available, that would be available to states like Florida, even if you're not drilling, so we probably aren't going to get as much as the other states, but to be able to get some revenue to pay for the many needs that we have in our state. And now some people don't like that idea because they claim that that will be an incentive for a future legislature in Florida to allow offshore drilling or to be moving towards offshore drilling. I think that's speculative. I think the pressure will still be extraordinary not to do so. It is a pretty broadly held belief in Florida that we don't want drilling in our waters. But we are, whether we want it or not, there's drilling just outside of our waters that could impact us. And if we're on the hook and we're at risk, should we not participate in revenue sharing, even though it's not drilling in our waters, so that we have funds available to us? So there's so many other questions that people are sending us on a variety of topics. It's impossible to get to all of them today. But these are three of the big ones that we heard over the last 10 or 12 days. And we'll be back in a couple weeks or in a few more days as they pile up and reach some other topics or if there's new developments on these. But in the interim, I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you about these three things and for reaching out to our office. And we look forward to hearing from all of you again as new issues arise or as old issues get resolved. With that, again, thank you for the honor, the blessing that it is for me and for my family to be able to serve you here in Washington, D.C. May God bless all of you. May God bless our country. And may God bless the great state of Florida.